How are you? Hope you're doing well by the grace of Almighty Allah. I'm fine too. This is Najma Jalil, Associate Professor, Department of English, Chittagong College. Welcome to my first online English class, Chittagong College, Chittagong. Before I begin my class, I must thank the authority of Chittagong College, especially the Principal, Professor Muhammad Mujibul Haq Chaudhry, Vice Principal, Professor Muhammad Mujahidul Islam Chaudhry, AMM Mujibur Rahman, Head of the Department of English, Chief Coordinator of Online Class, Professor Muhammad Kazimuddin, and others concerned in making these online classes. I shall discuss in detail a short poem which is in your textbook English for Today. The title of the poem is September 1, 1939, W.H. Auden. This you will find in Unit 10, Lesson 1. I would like all of my students to at least follow me carefully, or you can take out your textbooks and follow me. Before I discuss my poem, I want to tell you that I have divided my lecture into two sections. In the first section, I will discuss the historical background of the poem and also the life and works of W.H. Auden. In my next session or section, I will discuss the poem in detail, giving you the word meanings, a summary, and perhaps a short home task based on the theme of the poem. In discussing the historical significance of Auden's age, I must say that Auden was basically a modern poet. Modern age was an age of uncertainty, confusion, frustration. Conflict is seen in politics and religion. The rise of capitalists, right-wing politics, and decline of socialism is the main cause of frustration. People lost faith in religion also. Moreover, the World War I had shattered the hopes of the people, and people were in fact shell-shocked by the massive death and destruction caused by the World War I. When Auden was writing this poem, the World War II had already begun. It was in September that Hitler decided to attack Poland, and then sitting in New York bar, the poet was frustrated and feeling very hopeless, started writing this poem. You will be surprised to know that Auden, who was an optimist, felt utterly frustrated while writing this poem. He considered people as becoming psychopaths. So, the World War II came as a great shock for the people at large. This, in short, is the historical and political background of Auden's time. Auden was born on 21st February 1907 and died on 29 September 1973. He was a British American poet. He wrote a number of poems. Well-known poems are September 1, 1939, The Shield of Achilles, which is in fact a very good poem. He wrote an elegy on W.B. Yeats in memory of W.B. He was awarded Pulitzer Prize and was a prolific political figure also. This in fact is the short description of the life and works of W.H. Auden. Yes. Students, I would like all of you to follow your text if you have one. If not, I'm going to read it out. The introduction of Unit 10, Lesson 1. I'm reading out the introduction. Hope you will follow me. W. H. Auden, 1907 and 1973, was an Anglo-American poet who became famous for his stylistic and technical achievements and for poems and plays of exceptional depth and feelings. He wrote about love, war, religion, politics, and problems of modern man. September 1, 1939 is an indictment of all wars, particularly one that was looming over the world in 1939. Now, I am going to read out the poem. Students, please follow me. From September 1, 1939. I sit on one of the dives on 52nd Street, uncertain and afraid as the clever hopes expire. Of a low, dishonest decade, waves of anger and fear circulate over the bright and darkened lands of earth, obsessing our private lives. The unmentionable odor of death offends the September night. This, in fact, is the only first stanza of this poem, but the poem is extended to 9 long stanzas. So, in short, I will give you the words and meanings. I want my students please to take a note of it. Line 1. Dives. Here, dives means bar or tavern. You know what a bar is, where people sit down, gossip and drink wine. That is a bar. 52nd Street, line 2. In 52nd Street is a place, New York, where the poet sat in that bar and thought about the future of people and the aftermath of World War II. Uncertain and afraid, line 3. Uncertain of future and afraid of the imminent war. Clever hopes, line 4. Here, the clever hopes is basically hopes that had been built through the political pact. And this political pact was between Hitler and Mussolini. These two leaders were right-wing leaders, but they were, in other words, autocrats. They were great autocrats, and they had a strong feeling of ultra-nationalism. You know what is ultra-nationalism? Ultra-nationalism means it is not equal to patriotism. It is more than patriotism, something which is exaggerated. That is what brings the doom of these two great leaders. Then in line 5, low, dishonest decade. The decade means 10 years. And this decade was from 1930 to 1940. Low means a very, very mean thought. Dishonest, you all know what is dishonest. So the pact which Hitler and Mussolini made were indeed very low and dishonest. According to Auden, this thought expresses his fear that the right-wing leaders were autocrats and the breakdown of socialism, which was based on equality, fraternity and liberty, was shattered. Then in line 6, there is another word, waves of anger and fear. People did not know what was happening to them, and people were completely disorganized They had no idea what the war would bring to them. And fear is, of course, of the Second World War. People had already seen the aftermath of World War I. Now, after a decade, again a Second World War will bring them what? They did not know. This ominous future made each and every people full of fear, and they were both angry and also thinking about the earth. Line 8. Here, darkened means, of course, the darkness of war, darkness of all the bloodshed, and the darkness of destruction, obsessing our private lives. This war was completely disturbing the people each and every moment. Why? Because they knew that this war will bring them a great destruction which will be inexplicable. Line 10. Unmentionable odor of death. What is odor over here? Odor means smell. They could smell death. This death was unmentionable. This is what the people believed and thought, that the future was completely turning into an apocalypse. In the last line, offends the September night. In this line, it is of course the attack of Poland. Hitler attacked Poland because he wanted to show his superpower, and in this attack, 3 countries negotiated. One was Germany, second was Japan, and third Italy. These 3 countries combined to attack Poland, which was the beginning of the Second World War, the greatest war that brought lots of destruction. Students, I have given you the words and meanings. Now, I am going to give you a summary of the poem. Students, I am going to read out the summary to you. Hope you will follow me. September 1, 1939 is one of Auden's most well-versed poems. Here, the poet refers to the time when Adolf Hitler invaded Poland, thus beginning the disastrous World War II. This lyric is a topical piece, a political elegy. It reflects the mood of Europe on the eve of the outbreak of World War II. For many left-wing poets, the outbreak of World War II in the 1930s had been a period of uncertainty. They considered the death of socialistic values into a nightmare of a resurgence of right-wing powers. Auden begins by branding the 30s as a low, dishonest decade, and his explanation of why Germany adopted Hitler as its psychopathic god. The word psychopathic means a person with excessive desire for anything. You can call it obsession also. I'm continuing. The poet sits at the bar on 52nd Street in New York and thinks that human beings have lost their minds and all hopes for the future have faded away. Students, this is a short summary I have given you, but please make it a point. This is not to be memorized or to be given to any other. what you need to do, you should think that this is a format I have given you. You should write on your own by taking help of my points. I will give you a home task. From my summary, you have to write the theme of this poem. The theme of this poem will be not more than 3 to 5 or 6 sentences, because the theme is always in brief. It is the main subject matter of the poem. I will help you out by giving 2 words, or you can say the key words, to write out the theme of this poem. The key words are war and destruction, number 1, and number 2, it is the fear and anger of the people. My dear students, the second poem which I will read out and discuss in detail is a non-textual poem. Last year, a number of education boards like Chittagong Board and Sylhet Board have set non-textual questions. The poem which I have selected is a famous poem by Robert Frost. The title of the poem is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. First, I will give you a brief description of the life and works of Robert Frost. Then I will recite the poem and give word meanings following a summary. In the end, I will give you a home task based on the theme of the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Students, now I am going to read out the life and works of Robert Frost. Please follow me. Birth: born in San Francisco, California on March 26, 1874. Death: died in Boston on January 29, 1963. Parentage: father William Prescott Frost, Jr. of New Hampshire. Mother Isabel Moody of Scotland. High school: attended a high school in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Began writing poetry from there. College: attended Dartmouth College briefly. Marriage: in 1895, he married Eleanor White. They had 6 children, of them 2 died. Higher education: attended Harvard College but left before receiving a degree. Teaching: in 1900, Frost taught a small private school in New Hampshire. His travel to England: Frost moved to England in 1912. In England, Frost achieved his first literary success. Works: first volume of poems, A Boy's Will, published 1913. Second collection of poems, North of Boston, published 1914. Frost's formative years in England. Frost met other poets in England and gained reputation that enabled him to continue his career as a poet. Poets who influenced him most are Amy Lowell, avant-garde poet Ezra Pound, and the Georgian poets. Returned to the United States. In 1915, Frost, along with his family, returned to the United States. He was hailed as a leader of a new era in American poetry. Later years, Frost continued to write for the rest of his life. He lived in Vermont and New Hampshire and taught at Amherst College, University of Michigan, Harvard University, and Dartmouth University. Subsequent publications. His third volume, Mountain Interval, appeared in 1916. Several volumes followed thereafter. These were New Hampshire, West Running Brook, A Further Range, A Witness Tree, and Steeple Bush. In all, Frost wrote 300 poems. Awards and honors. Frost was awarded Pulitzer Prize 4 times. He was also awarded honorary degree by a number of colleges and universities. At the inauguration ceremony of President John F. Kennedy in 1961, Frost became the first poet to read out a poem, The Gift, outright. Now students, I have given you a short description of the life and works of Robert Frost. I am going to now recite the poem. You know students, this is one of my favorite poems. I have read it several times. I hope you will like it and you will know that this poem is in fact the most well-read poem. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are? I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only word other sound the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Students, this is the famous poem of Robert Frost. Now, I will give you the word meanings. Please make it a note. I hope that you all are ready to receive it. Word meanings. Line 1. Woods. A small forest land. Line 2. His house. The forest owner's house. Line 5. Queer or strange. Line 8. The darkest evening of the year. The line significantly hints at the dangerous isolation and unfriendly darkness on the one hand, and the lure of the white beauty of nature on the other. Line 9. Harness. Leather and metal things used to control a horse and to sit on its back. Line 11. Sweep. Brush off. Line 12. Downy. Anything soft that soothes or invites repose. Line 12. Flake. A very small, loose mass of snow. Line 13. Lovely, dark and deep. 3 adjectives have been used here. Number 1, lovely. Extraordinary beauty of snow and frozen lake. Dark. A sense of fear combined with loneliness. Deep. A sense of emptiness against the contrast of white and black. Line 15 to 16. Miles to go before I sleep. This is in fact a very important line. Caught between the two worlds, the speaker reminds himself of the long journey he has to make before he sleeps eternal sleep. Students, now I am going to read out the summary. I hope you are ready to write it, or at least you can follow me. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening is a short lyric describing a series of homely but vivid pictures. The setting of the poem is natural. It is snowing and the darkest evening of the year. The traveler is riding a horse and thinking as he pauses unknowingly of the owner of the forest. His momentary stay in the dark woods is hard to explain, but he comes to his senses when his horse gives his harness bells a shake. This poem deals basically with the conflicting feelings inherent in our minds. The traveler is lured by the overwhelming beauty of the woods and the solitude of the atmosphere. Nature is in its strangest mood, alluring but dark. The darkest evening and the freezing coldness symbolize death. The traveler's momentary attraction for the solitude of the snowy evening symbolizes death wish. But he remembers his promises that he has to travel a lot before he goes to sleep. Here, traveler represents the way of life. His promises stand for the responsibilities of a meaningful life. He has to strive before he sleeps, in other words, dies. He repeats this idea, implying a determination to achieve the fixed goal of life before death. Students, this in short is the summary of the poem. You consider this summary as a format, and from this summary you can take help and write the theme of the poem. I am giving the major themes. Major themes are background, nature, life and death, number 1. Number 2, responsibilities and promises to complete before. Students, I'm signing off now. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Hope to meet you soon. Bye-bye.